Talent Director Gail Cruikshank from the Greater St. Cloud Development Corporation joins us now. Hey, Gail, good morning.
Good morning.
Gail joins me every the third Monday of each month, and it's earliest we could possibly have you. It's the 15th, so glad to have you here. So today we're talking about something I think is pretty important because so many different businesses and corporations and jobs are dealing with this, is that how do you keep employees? How do you keep them from jumping around? And I think we've had discussions about this too. When people leave, that's when they're getting their biggest raises as opposed to staying where they're at. What is the secret?
Well, and I think one thing I want to stress, it doesn't do our community any good if an employee jumps from company A, company B, company C, all within the St. Cloud region, because then we're all just continually, filling it and that sort of thing. And so really, it really comes down to culture. What is the culture within your organization? And, are you adapting and meeting the needs of your employees? Because as you all know, there's more jobs than there are people. And with really the aftermath of the pandemic, there's been obviously this surge, and it's going to remain with us, of remote work, hybrid work, different type of work styles, all of that sort of thing. And so I really stress that employers, if you haven't looked at your benefits, you haven't looked at, kind of your whole structure since the pandemic, I would strongly recommend you take a refreshed look at it and do that by listening to your employees.
You don't want it to, I suppose, as an employee, you don't want it to get to a point where your employees are looking and they find better offers. And then when they do come back to you and say, I'm turning my notice in, and then the employer is like, hey, wait a second, how about if we pay you more money?
Right.
Which this happens.
It does.
But at that point, the person that's ready to leave is probably ready to leave.
Well, and also, if you're making that concession after they've already given notice, that employee wonders, okay, how valued really am I? Or is it just for them to save, losing a person and having to hire someone? So really, I think the biggest benefit is, are you talking to your employees? And I mean, not just saying hello, but are you really getting to know them? Do you walk around in your business and say, hey, Jay, how you doing today? How's your family? Whatever it is. So you're getting to know them personally as well as professionally. But then also hosting listening sessions and telling them what's going on in the organization. So if the company is on a huge growth spurt, or if maybe unfortunately they're in a little bit of a dip, let them know that, because they feel like they're a part of the organization and they can help then with how do we continue to move ourselves forward if they know that they're part of a team.
So try to stress that team idea. Mm-hmm. Okay. Be informative about that. How do you feel about the wages part of it? Is always going to be an issue.
Right.
It really is.
Yep.
If people are consistently leaving to get better pay, maybe it's a better job, maybe it isn't, to get better pay, and you're doing this every couple of years, which I think we've discussed that, millennials have the tendency based on numbers to do this. As an employer, you go through the effort of training that person. That person gets up to speed, they become more valuable, and in 2 years they leave. Then you have to start over again. That's got to be frustrating for employers.
It really is. And I think the biggest answer to answer the question first about pay, you don't always have to be the highest paying, but you need to be competitive. And that's where you need to continually look at that. I mean, there's some great resources that are free that you as an employer can just see if you are in line with proper pay and consistency with similar type businesses in your region. And the other thing is, it's not all about pay either. It's about opportunities for growth. Are you allowing them opportunity to volunteer? More employees want to feel like they're really making an impact, both within their company as well as within their community. So do you allow them time off of work to go volunteer? Do you, allow a flexible schedule that if they have to deal with things personally outside of work, are you providing opportunities for advancement? And it doesn't have to be a promotion upward, as we've talked about before. It can be lateral, it can be a demotion, but it might be just something that's a different opportunity for those employees as their personal change, desires change. Are you meeting them? And I always say you need to have a plan for each and every associate, and it doesn't have to all be the same, right? So where does this individual want to go? And where does this one want to go? And they're probably in two totally different paths, but that's the good part. That's again a lot. You're meeting the employees' needs where they're at. And again, listening to them, they're going to feel like they're a part of the organization.
Gail, when we started doing these conversations on a monthly basis, I felt like we started off with focusing on people that were job seekers. And these are the things that you should do to become more marketable and get yourself a better opportunity. And now I feel like in the last couple of years anyway, it's been a focus on employers. This is what you need to do to be appealing to employees.
Right.
And, to keep your employees too is the challenge as well. Is this now the new normal?
It really is again, as you know, job seekers and employees have a wide variety of jobs to pick from. And again, you need to be that employer of choice. Like I've talked about several times when we've chatted, it is really all about, and again, it's not like you have to, change your whole way of doing things as a business, but you need to make sure that you're adapting to the changes that we're in. I mean, we are in our new normal right now. We are not going to go back to pre-pandemic ways of doing things, running businesses and working in associates. So if you haven't looked at your structure and your culture and your benefits and had some conversations with your employees, you are going to see that departure because there's going to be somebody that's doing a better job of it. And again, you have to do what's right for your business. So what's right for this business is totally different than what's right for the next business. And, the other thing that I stress is think about your benefits. They don't have to all be the same for every employee because everybody has different needs. Somebody with a young family is very concerned about childcare type of benefits. Somebody that, maybe doesn't have children, but they want to have flexible scheduling because they take care of their mom, whatever it might be, but it's listening to your employees and finding out what's important to you today. And then how can we adapt to that? And realizing you don't have to, and you're not prepared to adapt to every single request you get from your employees. But if you're not listening to them, you don't know what their needs are. You're assuming, and sometimes that assumption can be wrong.
How much does that possible recession that we could be getting, I know when I talked to King Banyan about this, it could be the summer. We may not know until after we've already been in it for a while. That's kind of naturally how this thing goes. Are employers looking at their situation saying, we got to try to make ends meet? We're going by with less now. Maybe we're just going to have to have less employees. I mean, I would guess that probably adjustment has been made by some employers at some point.
Right. Your employees are your most valuable resource. So I would just say if you're a company that is concerned that your business might soften in the near future, look at all avenues and don't make that first initial reduction on the people side of things, because that can impact you in many, many ways. Because obviously you let an employee go, they're going to tell all kinds of people in the community. Again, that whole culture, that whole reputation is going to be challenged. Now, if that's the only alternative, then that's what you need to do. But then you need to, again, make sure your culture within your organization understands and is supportive and, can then continue to back and support this organization. They've had to make some tough decisions, but this is how we're adapting and this is how we're going forward. So it's really that strong communication and, concern for what is the best for our organization and how can we communicate it together and do it as a team.
Since employers have had to they've had to adjust a little bit in regards to who they hire. Maybe they haven't been able to get someone who's qualified as much as they would like, right? Because a lot of times we talk about transferable skills, and it's important that those might actually make you appealing, even if you don't have that same experience. Are employers still getting quite a few smaller amounts of people applying for jobs that are open?
Actually, what I have heard as of late is applicant flow is much more lively. It is much healthier. They are feeling that they're back to getting the same number of applicants they were getting prior, which is exciting. And they're having choices again, which again, that, certainly is in favor of our employers. And so if you're not getting many applications, then I would again say there's something you need to look at within to increase that. And I just, I listen to some of these radio spots that employers are doing right now, and they're finding their one secret sauce that is the winner, that is the most important element, and they are driving that in promotion of why work for them. And it's working. So again, it gets back to listening to your employees. You find out what those one or two key nuggets are of why do you love working here, and then utilize that in your advertisement for people.
Yeah.
And it's working. So again,
and that's something a few years ago, we didn't get a lot of job recruitment ads, but we got a lot of them now. And that's been the way it's been.
And again, there's a lot of recruitment marketing going on right now. Again, I always say, show what your organization is like on the inside, for those employers that are doing social media posts or radio or whatever. They're giving a feeling of what it's like to work inside the organization. And that's what gets people excited. And they're highlighting their employees. So as a candidate, you think, wow, I'm going to feel valued here. So I'm going to go apply.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. If people do want to find out more about what you have to offer at Greater St. Cloud Development Corporation, how can they do that?
Absolutely. We have lots of resources on our GSDC website that we've got lots of employer resources for recruitment and retention and a number of other things. There's some great free resources out there. There's grant monies, all those kind of things that GSDC would like to help with. So greaterstcloud.com. And if you are a job seeker listening today, we still do have, obviously, our JobSpot portal, which highlights all jobs in the region. And you can find that on stcloudshines.com. And the last thing I'll say to our employers is if you're trying to attract people to the region, which we encourage, so again, we can get more candidate activity, use stcloudshines.com as a tool to share because it highlights all the great things about St. Cloud and gives you lots of resources if somebody's considering relocation.
Excellent. Gail, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you. Have a great day. It's beautiful out there today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting out and experience some of that. Gail Cruikshank, Talent Director, Greater St. Cloud Development Corporation, joining us here on WJON.